Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Rare Company podcast. I am your host, Raven Siobhan, and I started this brand in effort to influence and inspire others to be Rare Company as well. You see, I've grown to learn from my past and began planting seeds, and I want to be able to help others do the same since that is my passion. Today's culture, we like to attack and cancel what we don't understand, but what we all need to understand is that we all come from different walks of life, which grant us different experiences. So we need to take those experiences and learn to radiate acceptance, respect, and empower one another, because that is the only way that we're going to have less violence and encourage greater success. So join me and my guests as we tackle trending topics, mental health, recipes, and much more. Thanks for listening. I complain so much about all the things that I have to do because that's really a part of the process and trusting the process. All right, hello everyone. Raven Siobhan here. And as the title of this video reads, I'm just going to be sharing a little glimpse into my healing process and what that looks like for me. And as a disclaimer, before I get started into any of this, a lot of people think sometimes people share things for validation or seeking approval. When you are secure within yourself, you need none of those things. I particularly love to show people that healing is not as easy as people make it seem, or what certain people like to paint the picture of it being. Like, it's a process. It's literally not linear. It's ongoing. Sometimes it looks very ugly. Sometimes, you could be doing great. Sometimes you relapse and you have to start all over again. Like, it's messy, because we're human. And especially when we start our healing process and we don't have any guidance and we just feel like, you know what, I got this, which sometimes we do, and that's great. But then sometimes there's also nothing wrong with admitting, like, damn, I'm trying to do this, but I keep slipping, I keep falling, I keep messing up. So let me get me some help. Let me get me a little bit of guidance. And that is definitely perfectly okay. So the main reason behind me wanting to share a little bit of my journey, just because I want people to understand, like, when you share your real experience, instead of going in front of someone and telling them, don't do this, or do this, or why, it just comes out way better because you're being real, you're being raw, you're being authentic, and they know that you're not just another person in the world trying to tell them what to do. And that's the very important part for me, is I'm never going to be another person that's just like trying to tell someone how to live their life. I'll be honest with y'all. There was a time before, hey Corey, I meant to tell y'all that we are broadcasting live to Facebook right now, but there was a time before where I literally used to, because of my own personal experiences, I would tell people basically how to live their lives. I'd be like, don't do that, don't do this, that's not good for you, or whatever, just because of my experience, not realizing that other people have different experiences and reasons behind what they do that I know nothing about and that I may not understand. So I just had to learn to understand, to walk with people and meet them where they are. And that's why, I've taken on a whole new approach when it comes to therapy, when it comes to helping people, when it comes to, myself and my own journey. So I'm just going to share some of that with you today while I have a chance. It's very important for me to get back into podcasting and posting my YouTube videos, just because I'm going to have another baby in 6 weeks. And I don't know when I'm going to be able to do the things that I have more time to do now. So, I definitely have to go ahead and get into it. But, when it comes to healing, again, like I said in the beginning, it is something that's definitely not linear. It takes time. It's a process. And sometimes because we get triggered and things pop up that, again, we're human. I've had plenty of moments while in my healing process that I woke up and I wanted to choose violence. Y'all saw one of those moments a few months ago in my life. And that's very rare for me because I don't typically pour out all my emotions at once. And I definitely don't do it on social media like the way that I did a few months ago. But, again, that's part of the process, and being able to walk through those ugly moments and face them head on, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to drink all day long to deal with the pain, or I'm going to just get high. And that's what a lot of people do, is they self-medicate, they smoke the pain away, they drink, and it's unhealthy. Like, if you're doing something because it makes you feel better and it's going to give you a clearer mindset to do what you have to do to keep moving forward, then fine. But if it's just going to enable you to repeat the same cycle and stay complacent, then you have to really think about it and say, that's not something that's good for me. And I'm an example of that, y'all. Like, I would never drink every single day just to cope or deal with what I was going through. But boy, did I used to smoke that pain away. I just felt like, you know what, I'm gonna get high, because when I do that, not a care in the world, not a worry in the world. But I realized, like, the problem was still not going anywhere. Like, it was still there, So that's one of the biggest things that I want to share, and that I hope a lot of people are able to take away from this. Like, I'm never going to tell y'all how to live your life, do what makes you feel happy or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're facing so much adversity in your life and it feels like one thing on top of another, and you just want to push it to the back, that's very sad. But at the same time, it's unhealthy, just because you're not getting to the root of the problem. You're not really getting better. You're just kind of, again, pushing it off, and you need to be able to deal with that. So for me personally, I realized that I had some things within myself that I had to heal, just because there was a point in life where I just felt like very miserable, very unhappy, like very unhappy in my relationship, in my current life status, in my work. Like, this was after I graduated. I had just found out that I was pregnant with my son the day after I walked across the stage, right? And I had so much plans, going to graduate school at USC in Columbia. But then I decided it was just easier to move back home, because I had like a huge support system at home, which I'm very grateful that I did that, because I was able to stack and save so much being back at home. And I did have such an amazing support system with my child, like never had to worry about childcare or anything like that, which was great. But nonetheless, like, I just wasn't happy. Like, I graduated, I did start working a job in my field. Well, let me rewind real quick. First, I was working, interning, and they promised to pay me, but I never got paid. So I ended up leaving. Then I started working a job in my field with Autism Inc. And it just so happened that we got paid through insurance, and I was supposed to get paid every week, but I ended up getting paid very randomly, like very randomly. My paychecks would come at random. I didn't know when I was going to be able to pay certain bills at certain times, and that was extremely stressful, especially knowing that you had a baby coming. However, I decided to stick through it, even though I had friends telling me that I needed to leave. I had family telling me that I needed to leave. My boyfriend was telling me that I needed to leave that job because it wasn't worth it. But for me, I knew the help that I was providing to my clients and their families, and I knew that I just felt like they needed me and my support, and I was doing a really good job with my clients' programs, and they were excelling, and I just felt like if I left, it would be bad for them. So I just decided to stick it out, but that hurt me in the end. And I'm sharing this with y'all because one of the biggest things that I realized is that I lacked boundaries in my life. Like, I always put other people before myself. And it wasn't because, like, I didn't value what I needed, but I really put other people before me and their needs, just because I was like, man, I've been in this situation. I know what a hard time looks like. So let me help somebody out. But the problem with that was I wasn't helping myself out. So when I stayed at that job, I stayed with the job and I helped my clients out, yes, but a few things happened in my life and things just went downhill for me, and it just completely messed me up. For example, my insurance lapsed a few times because, again, those paychecks were very inconsistent. So my insurance lapsed a few times. And the last time that ended up lapsing, when I went to renew the premium, when I finally did get paid, I ended up having to pay over $500 a month for insurance. And that killed me because, again, I don't know when these checks are coming. They're coming in consistently. I knew I had a baby on the way. I had other responsibilities that I had to take care of. At this point, my phone probably was off at the time. Also, I was starting to become late with my car payments because I did save up good, but that money was starting to run out. So I had things that I had to do, and it was just so stressful. So I ended up during my pregnancy towards the end, I started working 2 jobs. And that was the only way that I was guaranteed to continue to pay my bills and make sure I had what I needed for my child that was coming. And for me, and again, this just had me so unhappy, so unhealthy, very angry, attitude all the time, moody, or whatever. I stayed positive. I did the best that I could, but at the same time, it was affecting me and my mental health in ways that I didn't realize. So fast forward last year, February. Actually, let's go back a little bit before February. I was interviewing for more jobs in my field. I applied to be a substitute, permanent substitute for Beaufort County School District. So I went through that whole program, went through that training. I wanted to get my foot in the door so that when I did complete my master's degree, which I'm currently working on, that I would be able to either be a school counselor or a school social worker or teach psychology. So those are my 3 things. So I wanted to become a substitute just so that I could get my foot in the door. They would be familiar with me in the school system, and it would just be a little bit easier. So that was my plan, right? Applied for Department of Juvenile Justice also. I'm mostly looking for job with benefits at this point. Then I came across this agency called Hopeful Horizons that I did not know existed in Bluffton, which was in Beaufort County. And Hopeful Horizons is a child advocacy, domestic violence, and rape crisis center, right? So applied there. They had this position called violence prevention specialist, and I was like, ooh. At the thought of the name, like violence prevention specialist, But then I looked more into it and I saw that it was me all the way, working with teens, facilitating programs and clubs, like teaching them all the things that I did not have the liberty to learn about when I was a young teenager. So I was like, yes, I'm all for it. I applied for that job. I got it. Was very excited. And then that's when things started to turn around for me. And then that's even more so when I realized that I had some things within myself to heal. And let me tell you why. So with first working at the job, the very first day, we had some trainings to go through, and they taught us about sexual assault awareness. They gave us details and facts about, sexual assault, how harmful it is. We did this darkness to light training where we learned about the violence that children go through also. And it was very emotional for me, and I couldn't figure out why. Fast forward to April, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So I'm doing all this research for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. The pandemic has started, so we're working from home now, and I'm just trying to keep busy. I'm just trying to keep busy and understand what I'm trying to keep busy and understand all this information and taking all this stuff about sexual assault awareness that wasn't obvious, that I didn't know. Learn about victim blaming, learn about gaslighting, learn about so much things. And in that process, a lot of the stuff that I saw, it was me. And when I tell y'all it was me, it was me. A lot of the research that I did about young girls and what they go through and why certain things have happened to them and the results of them being sexually assaulted, that was me. I saw some of the things that I went through. So for those of you who have not watched that video on my YouTube channel, you're not familiar with it, I shared my experience with sexual assault as a youth. I was not raped, which is the first thing that a lot of people assume when they hear sexual assault, is that you were raped. So really quickly, because I do have the picture on here, I'm going to show y'all the scope of, it's called the Continuum of Harm. Actually, I'm not going to show y'all that because that's the video. I don't want to take up time showing y'all the whole video. From what I'm looking at on my screen right now, it just looks like the picture. But basically, the Continuum of Harm is showing the scale from sexual harassment all the way up to sexual assault, where you're physically penetrated. And where I fall in was kind of in the middle. I was touched, groped by a family member in both cases. And so just assaulted in a way or whatever, but I was at a young age to where it affected me in ways that I did not realize. So I grew up with like a need for safety, kind of a need to please others, a need for validation, always wanting to feel loved and protected. So I looked for that in anybody that I dated. I kind of looked for them to be the one. I wanted them to be the one. I had this healing spirit, again, like the need to help others, the need to please others. And for a long time, I didn't realize that that was harmful. I thought that, this is a good thing. I have a good heart. And so many times I question myself, like, why are you so nice? Like, why are you so nice to people when you go through the things that you go through? Like, I didn't understand it for so long. But of course, in doing this research for Sexual Assault Awareness Month and learning about child abuse prevention and all that stuff, I understood why I went through some of the things that I went through, and especially when it came to relationships. And that is one of the biggest things that I'm working on healing, that little broken girl in me, because of how I have responded and how I have reacted in relationships. I think that that is so important, to be able to identify that sometimes it's not always other people who are just the problem. And even though like you may have issues with yourself, I'm never going to say, and don't confuse me when I say this, because just because you have issues or you bring issues to the table, that's never excuse for someone to hurt you. Especially knowing what you went through or whatever, that's never an excuse for someone to do something to you that they know is going to be harmful to you or damaging to you in any way, shape, or form. However, what I am saying is sometimes we have to be, especially as women, because we have this thing where we never want to admit when we're wrong. Like, I see so many memes and people joking about, I'm never going to admit that I'm the problem. I'm going to change the subject in the argument, blah, 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 which I've definitely done before. But I've learned to understand the importance of actually saying, you know what, I am wrong, and being able to change some of those things. So for me personally, when it came to dating and relationships, I realized that I had a pattern. And let me tell you how I realized this pattern. It first started in like 2016 when I started dating my kid's father, uh, my most recent and longest relationship. Um, it started then because I had posted a picture of us on Snapchat, and one of my high school friends, who's a guy, messaged me and was like, let's see if this boyfriend lasts longer than 3 months or something like that. And I was like, huh? Like, first thinking that he was just on some hand stuff, like trying to be funny or whatever. But then when I really thought about it, and I was like, I have had this pattern recently where I may be single for a little while and my relationship will only literally last like 3 months. And I end up cutting them off for whatever reason, or it just don't work out or something like that. So I realized, like, at that point, that is when I wanted to take some time for myself, and the importance of taking time for yourself to heal instead of just being in relationship to relationship, which I never did. I never like jumped around from relationship to relationship. I always gave myself time, but I think the problem is giving in so easily and like falling in love so fast. That was really the problem. Like, I always literally fell in love way too fast. And when you like boundaries, that's something that's easy to do, like a lot of people, I could fall in love in 2 to 6 business hours. Seriously, if we got together and our vibe was there and we chilled and we connected or whatever, and especially if you got a life story where some harmful things happen to you, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to take that pain away from you. That was me back in college. That was me back in high school or whatever. In high school, I only had one boyfriend. In college, I had 3 boyfriends. And literally, first one, dated for 6 months, broke up. I was single for like 3 months, got into another relationship, dated I think it was, I want to say 6, 7 months, broke up. A few months later, in another full on relationship. That one only lasted for like 2 months because there was this situation with this baby and this girl who just was causing so much drama. And I was like, you know what? Not about to deal with this. And he actually was the only guy that I dated that had enough respect for me to be like, you know what? This is a lot of drama. You don't deserve to go through this. I don't want to put you through this. So I'm going to let you go. And even though at that time it really hurt me, I really appreciate the fact that he did that because he respected me enough to want to let me go instead of just putting me through something that was going to hurt me. And I really value that. So, all right. Hello, everyone. That was one thing that I realized that I had to work on that pattern, and I wanted to break that pattern. So again, spending more time to heal and work on myself. And then also I learned, like, collectively from my ex-boyfriends, how badly my trust issues were. Didn't realize, like, I knew I had trust issues, but I didn't realize how badly they came out and how they affected me, how they affected them, how they affected the relationship in general. And so, and actually going through and understanding that trust issues are not good. And if you have trust issues, you just might as well just walk away from the situation or not be with anyone, period. I really thought that it was the person's responsibility who was with me to kind of fix me, heal me, you know, repair my trust issues and show me that men are worthy. And that's the problem. And that's why I teach young girls today. If you have those issues, if you have any sort of issues, it's better to work on you first. Don't get into a relationship expecting someone to be able to fix you or show you what your worth is. You need to figure that out for yourself. You need to be able to love yourself completely, know your worth completely by yourself. And then once you feel like you're healed and you're at peace with yourself, then maybe you can share that with someone else, but not just rely on the other person to fix or heal you, because that's not realistic and it's not fair to them. They're not the ones that broke you. They're not the ones who put you through those things, and they shouldn't have to suffer from what you went through in previous relationships. If you're not healed from what you went through in previous relationships, then it's better to just be alone. And that's one of the most important key things that I teach the young girls that I work with today. So just wanted to share that a part of my healing process. And another thing that I wanted to touch on, I didn't learn this until, well, actually I did learn some of it, but a lot of the things that I'm about to provide some insight on right now, I didn't understand or learn until I started working with my therapist. So one thing I did, and I wish I had the book like right next to me so that I could show it to you. But back in January, after everything happened, like I lost my brother in November, found out I was pregnant, planning his funeral, lost my cousin a week after we lost my brother, a whole bunch of stuff. The situation that went down in January, when I got when I was betrayed, basically. Like I was betrayed in my relationship. And that's just the bottom line. That's the way I felt. And, I've already let that out on social media. I don't have to continue to dwell on that. But the point is, once all that happened, I just realized that, I was going to need some help to get through everything that I was facing. Just still grieving and going through so much pain and being pregnant at the same time. I didn't want any of my emotions to go to my unborn. I didn't want to lash out on anyone. I just wanted to be positive and be healthy and continue the process that I have already started for growth. So scheduled some appointments for counseling. I wasn't able to get in as many sessions as I wanted to get in. So I decided to order this workbook from Amazon, and it's called the Complex PTSD workbook. So working through that, working on getting through a relationship when it ends. I got that workbook also. And just started working on those just to help me like keep my mental capacity strong after going through all that stuff. And then when I was able to get in some sessions with my counselor, we spoke, and she was the one who gave me some enlightening. I told her how I felt like such a hypocrite. I'm having issues in my own relationship, and I teach healthy versus unhealthy relationships to teenagers, and I just expressed all those emotions because she wanted to know where I was right now in my healing process. And she gave me a lot of insight and just let me know, like, Raven, you're doing the right thing. You're doing what you need to be doing, like, you're aware. You're not allowing anyone to take advantage of you. You're not being manipulated or gaslighted in any way. You're too smart for that. Like, you're aware. And as long as you're aware and you're working through it, then you're doing perfectly fine. So all my emotions, she let me know that they were validated. Like, it was okay to wake up some days and want to scream. It's okay to wake up some days and want to fight, as long as I didn't actually fight. And that was another thing in itself, like just being able to think about where I am in life, what I have going on for me, my kid currently, the other kid that I'm about to have, all those things, and just being able to focus on those things and my peace and my happiness overall, and not worrying about, what other people are thinking, judgments, anything else besides me getting better. That's what I focused on. And that's what helped me a lot. And that's why I like to tell people, therapy and counseling, they're not going to just tell you what to do. They want to work with you to figure out, first of all, where you are and where you want to be, like what is the end result for you, and together you two work on those things. And it's so much easier to have another person because we're clouded by our emotions and our feelings and the love that we have for people and how supportive we want to be, and all that stuff, but they can see clearly because they don't have those emotions or those attachments that we have. So it's easier for them to help us. And so one of the most important things that we address and that I learned from her is that I thought for many years that I didn't have any sort of daddy attachment issues just because my daddy raised me. He was active in my life, and he treated my sister and I like queens. Like, he never put his hands on us because he said he didn't want us to know what it felt like for a man to touch us. He didn't hurt us in any sort of way. Like, he always tried to spoil us in the best way that he could. To his full capacity, he spoiled us. So because of that, I was like, my daddy taught me how to be treated. Ain't nobody about to not treat me as good as my daddy did. However, I realized in speaking with my therapist that although my daddy did treat me like a queen, because it was inconsistent, and because it was inconsistent because he was in jail, but regardless, that treatment was inconsistent. That is why I wait in situations longer than I should sometimes, because I'm used to waiting. My daddy treated me like a queen. He was away for a while or whatever, whether he moved or he was in jail or whatever. I still waited for that treatment, and I looked for that in other places. And so that was a huge, like, epiphany moment for me, just because it was like, okay, that makes sense. Because for the longest, like, I always have this thought in my head, that meme where I just saw a meme earlier this morning. It was like, women leave in their heads way before their actual body leaves a situation or something like that. That's the case with me so many times, because I'm like, I'm always able to identify when I deserve better. I know that, like, I definitely know my worth. I'm very, again, secure with who I am. I know exactly what I want, what I don't want, what I'm not willing to deal with long term. But the problem is, again, I didn't know how to really set those boundaries properly. Like, I always think about the other person, what the person is going through, why they're going through those things, and be so understanding. And this is the only time that I will share this again. When it comes to, like, that, my last situation, for me personally, I felt like I owed it to that person to stay into, I would never say deal with certain things, because homeboy knows, like, it's certain things that I ain't ever going to be okay with, period. Like, I ain't never about to excuse. If y'all see me in a situation, understand that the agreement is always that I'm going to be treated how I'm supposed to. So that's that on that. But I guess the word that I'm looking for, I felt like I just wanted to be fair, just because, like, again, in the beginning of our situation, I came into it with trust issues. And I know that from the very beginning. I said to Homeboy, I said, look, I have trust issues. I've been through X, Y, and Z. And, I just want to work on myself for a while before I get into a relationship. I should have stood on that. But it was me allowing him to convince me, like, you good with me? You ain't got nothing to worry about. Like, I got you type thing. So I'm like, okay, because he didn't make me very happy. I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust you. But there were certain situations that happened that just triggered me from my past, and I would go full. Like, I would go fuller than what y'all have ever seen from me before. Like, no one has ever, a lot of people besides my family and some of my friends have never seen that side of me. Y'all just know, like, the positive, the happy, the loving Raven, which is who I am, absolutely. But remember that I'm still human and I have those moments. But because of how patient he was for months at a time, I was very insecure, had trust issues, and he was just so patient. He worked with me, he talked to me. He barely raised his voice at me, argued with me, and it just got to a point, I guess, where he got tired of, like, being constantly accused and all that stuff, where he started arguing back. He started, getting loud. He started being cursing at just like how I was cursing and stuff like that. And then that's when I actually kind of sat back and kind of listened a little bit. And there was one point he said, I ain't never wanted to talk to you like that, but that's really the only time that you will stop and listen. And I think as women, sometimes we really need to stop and listen, because we are really not always right. And no, these men are not justified for a lot of their behaviors, but sometimes we really are not right. And we need to be able to communicate on both sides. And that's so important. So because of all that, I was just like, I was going through something and he was there and he listened or whatever. So now that I know that he's going through something, I'm not saying that it's okay what happened, but I'm willing to allow him to work through that and, still be supportive, whether it's in a capacity where we're together or whether I just have to kind of love from afar. I'm gonna be there and just make sure you're all right type thing. So, sometimes I think about it and I just wonder, like, am I wasting my youth? Am I wasting my time? That was one of the main reasons why I continue to fight for this healing journey for myself. Now I've learned that I cannot put anyone else's problems healing wise in my hands. It's not up to me to manipulate or control. They have to do that and completely want that for themselves, and then just learn to fall back. So thus far, recently, I've only been focused on healing myself. Of course, in the line of work that I do, I help others. I'm there for others. I am supportive of others' healing journeys and processes. However, when it comes to myself, my situations, and the people around me, I focus on healing myself. And if someone wants support from me, then I may offer my support or help them out. But it's not me to tell someone else what or how to handle situations, because a lot of us, we lack emotional intelligence, where we'll look at a situation and we immediately tell somebody how we would handle it. And that's fine to share your experience, but at the same time, you just have to be mindful and be supportive and understand that other people have their own experiences and reasons for handling things the way that they choose to handle it. And just because it don't make sense to you, it's not supposed to all the time. As long as it makes sense to them and they understand, and most importantly, if they're happy, like, oh my gosh, I can't stress this enough. If someone else likes it, then I love it. If they're happy, if they feel secure, if they're okay with whatever it is, then I love it for them. I'm not about to sit. I don't watch my friends, I don't watch family members in situations where I look like couldn't be me. And there's so many times people look at situations and they're like, oh, hell no, that can't be me. But you have no idea what you would do if you're actually in that situation, if you're in that position. So, I mean, those are the things that I wanted to share that I am healing from. I'm healing from the grief that I've experienced recently, losing a cousin a year ago, a brother a few months ago, almost 7 months ago to be exact. Another cousin a week after that. Just so much, just life. Many more cousins and family members after that, and just a part of life. We have to understand that, yeah, things may hurt us, but we have to have the ability to keep pushing forward and be able to be okay. Find something that is worth your time and your energy, and take part in self-care as frequently and as often as you can. And that looks different for everybody. Self-care is not meant to be something that is annoying. Self-care is meant to be something that literally makes you feel balanced and at peace, and to where you're able to not only just cope, because that's the difference between just self-medicating and smoking and drinking your problems away. You just want to be able to deal with whatever in that moment. With self-care, you're able to continuously walk through and deal with life and the adversities that come at you. And that's the importance, and that's the key, and that's definitely the difference. So, again, if you take nothing away from this podcast episode, I just want you to take away from the fact that nothing and no one is going to get you to where you want to be in life but you. To be able to work on that and prove to yourself how badly you want it, because nothing is going to just be given to you. After I had my first child and I gained 40 pounds or whatever, I wanted my body back so bad, until I really realized, like, I had to really work on that. And so I actually started exercising, and I lost that 40 pounds. I did what I had to do to get where I wanted, to get my body where I wanted. So sometimes you have to work overtime on your healing. Understand that, like, if you continue to allow people and situations into your life and into your circle that are harmful to you, understand that those things are going to slow your healing process down even further, because sometimes those things are harmful to you. They're going to trigger you. They're going to bring back painful memories. They're going to make you feel like you're failing all over again, especially when you took a few steps forward and then you feel like you're going to have to take a few steps back, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes that's going to happen. So you have to be able to decide for yourself what's worth being in your life and what's not. And understand that when it comes to relationships and, entrepreneurship and, all these things that we want in life, sometimes it's not going to be easy, especially when it comes to relationships, and not just intimate relationships, but relationships with friends, parents, peers, whatever. Like, it's not always going to be easy. It's going to take work. And I believe that our generation honestly doesn't know anything about unconditional love. And when I say that, I mean, are you able to love a person or love people in your life, even when they disappoint you, even when they don't do things your way? Are you able to understand where they're coming from? Are you able to support them even when they don't do things the way you want them to, or when you want them to, or how you want them to? And that's not to say that your peace and your presence is not valued to where you have to put what you want first. I'm not saying that at all, because you definitely need to protect your peace and your space and your energy. You definitely need to be able to do all that. However, is there a point where y'all can compromise on some of those things? If not, by all means, cut it out. Do what you have to do. Protect, again, only you know what you can do to protect yourself and your peace and your happiness. Only you know what needs to be done. But just because you know that needs to be done, it's not always that easy to completely cut it off. So just figure out what that looks like for you, how to manipulate your space, how to work through that. If it is working through that, whatever that is, if it's a new job, if it's school, if it's becoming a parent, if it's a relationship, getting out of a toxic relationship, being in a healthy relationship, and being able to trust that your relationship is healthy just because you've been through a bunch of bad situations. Like, whatever that looks like for you, you have to be able to continuously work through that and take on the responsibility of communicating effectively, understanding your boundaries. That's the most important thing. If not sexual assault awareness or teen dating violence, I would say setting and enforcing boundaries is the most important thing that I teach children, because again, that was the one thing that I didn't know how to do. I would let people walk all over me. I would, go broke just to help other people. I would be there in situations where I know that a person wouldn't be there for me, so many different things. So understanding what works for you, what doesn't, and communicating that. Just because you want to be friends with someone, just because you want to be in a relationship with someone, don't take things that you don't deserve just for that to work. Communicate your boundaries and say, hey, maybe you didn't understand that XYZ is not going to work out for me, but now I'm letting you know that that's not going to work out for me. And if we can't come to some sort of an agreement about that, then I'm just going to have to let you go. And it's no hard feelings, but you're just not meant to be in my life, or it's not something that I have to deal with, period. And that's it. And you have that right to do that. So I teach young girls now, and sometimes even young guys, when we do our workshop trainings together, know your boundaries, know how to set them. And the most important thing is to not allow people to continuously cross those boundaries. Because when you allow them to keep crossing those boundaries over and over and over again, they're going to feel like they can just slide and do whatever they want to, and you're just going to deal with it. And that's not okay. But at the end of the day, you're allowing it to happen. So block out the outside world. Don't worry about what your cousin's boundaries are, or what your sister's boundaries are, or what your mama's boundaries are, or what your friend's boundaries are. Oh, thank you, Dee. You're so sweet. My sister on here. I should invite her on here so she could tell us what healing looks like from a spiritual perspective. Well, we got time. We will do that at any time. But yeah, you can't worry about what anyone else's boundaries looks like for yourself, because again, that's why I've been in plenty of situations where I've seen my friends go through things and I was like, how the hell do you put up with that? I would never in my life deal with that. But I had to understand, I'm not her. Just because she's dealing with something that I wouldn't go through, that'll make her no less than me, And I always tell people, learn to not judge, because when you are giving the knowledge and the information, and especially you were raised by loving parents who taught you boundaries and taught you how to stand up for yourself and all that, that makes you blessed, not better. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt, I promise. Blessed, not better. So be able to stand on those things, Again, I've had, when I was doing Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I've had adults reaching out to me, asking me for more information about boundary settings, and the difference between a healthy versus an unhealthy relationship. That is another thing that was completely different, and that I had to learn for myself with my job that I had, and just by trying to educate myself, because I literally didn't have anyone growing up teaching me this is what's healthy and this is not. I was literally raised by, for the most part, my mom got married when I was a lot older. When I was in college, actually, she got remarried or whatever. But for most of the time, she was pretty much single, and she didn't bring, she did not parade a lot of guys around us or anything like that at all. I've only had one stepfather, and well, two actually. The second one is the one that she married. But I was raised by a bunch of single mothers, and I've only seen one example of what like a healthy relationship looks like. I've only seen one example where the couple that I knew and loved got married and, bought a house and had their children and all that. I've only seen one example, like within my close family circle of that. Everything else that I witnessed growing up was drama, baby mama drama, arguing, fighting, communicating, cursing each other out. Like, I witnessed that form of communicating. So even though I made a mental note, like, that's not what I want for myself. And especially with growing up in the church, I knew that, I should be married first. I should do, all these things they teach you in the church. That was the only form of education that I had about, what a healthy relationship looks like. So unconsciously, that other stuff got into my head. When an altercation happened, I was yelling, raising my voice. I was angry. I was, all those things. So again, with this job, learning the difference and teaching the youth the difference between unhealthy versus healthy, and the fine line between abusive, I realized, like, homegirl, you got some abusive traits within you that you have to work on and you have to fix, because you're not wifey material yet. And that was the hardest pill for me to swallow, because for the longest I thought, I'm loyal, I cook, I clean, I'm supportive, I'm always gonna have your back, I'm gonna make sure you ate, and I'm gonna make sure you good, and I'm gonna be there for you or whatever. But I didn't always communicate effectively. I would be verbally abusive. I would sometimes be physically abusive. Um, and it was just a lot more that I'm not proud of. A lot of stuff that I've already shared on my YouTube channel, if you watch my Dear Black Men video. So we're not gonna go there, because I'm gonna leave those things where it's at. But just know, like, I'm being completely honest and transparent with y'all. I have been those things, and I understand that it may seem like that's the way to go, but it's not. You got to be careful with what you put into your brain. You got to be careful with the things that you watch on reality TV. Bad Girls Club, Real Housewives of Atlanta, and all that stuff, where they're just bickering and they got so much drama and they're fighting, and just the way they handle situations. Like, now I can watch those things and I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. I'm not influenced by it anymore, but like, when you're at a young age, you're a teenager, and you watch those things, it's easier to become influenced by it. It's easier for it to get stuck in your head, and you think that that's normal and that's how you're supposed to act. So because of the media and all these negative things that are being taught to teenagers today, that's where I come in the schools, and I teach the youth the positive side, the communicating healthy and effective, not allowing anyone to manipulate you, knowing your boundaries, knowing all those things. That's why it's so important to me to do the work that I do, and why I'm becoming a counselor, because the Black community, we need more counselors who look like me. We need more counselors who are not going to judge because you've been there. And most importantly, you understand, like, the culture and what needs we have, So that's just something that I wanted to share with you all. Again, this is not for anyone's validation. I have shared my downfalls, my shortcomings, my failures many times before, and I don't have a problem with it, just because, it's a part of life. Um, you don't have to share these things if you're not comfortable with it. That's perfectly fine, but it's really a part of life. And sometimes we get so caught up in not want other people to know what we're going through that we forget that we need to work through them and we need to heal ourselves or whatever. And that's very important. We need to stop normalizing toxic culture and acting as if it's okay to be toxic. We need to stop thinking that it's okay for a woman to put her hands on a man, just like it's not okay for a man to put her hands on a woman. We need to normalize communicating better, and we need to normalize that we are all humans with real emotions. Like, if you want to walk around and act like you don't ever go through nothing and you just so unbothered and you good, fine, do that. But at the end of the day, if you really putting that into your mind and you acting like that, but it comes out in other ways, it's going to come out in other ways. That's just the bottom line. People are going to think people can see when a person is really miserable by the things they say and the way that they attack other people. If you really living your best life, if you're really not worried about what somebody else got going on, then mind your business. I mean, it's really not that hard. If you offering someone some educational advice that could really be helpful to them, then that's amazing. But just sticking your opinion and your judgment to someone else just shows like the unhappiness within you. And I don't think that that's ever okay. And that's why Rare Company is all about radiating acceptance, respect, and empowerment, which means I don't have to like you or your choices. um I don't have to like you as a person, but I still have the capacity to respect you and somehow empower you and give you some sort of information that you may be lacking. I used to judge girls who sleep around a lot, but I've come to learn that a lot of those girls, they've had issues and they've been assaulted, and for whatever reason, that is how they chose to cope. So instead of judging them, I found ways to empower them. That's just one example that I can give you. But another thing that I had to learn when it comes to healing, and especially in relationships, and this is going to be the last thing that I share before I wrap this up, is that it should never be happy wife, happy life. That was another problem that I was taught growing up. Happy wife, happy life. Like it's all about the woman's happiness. It's not. And that's one of the reasons why men in their mental health, like they have this toxic masculine culture where they think that they just have to be so manly. And I'm saving this for another episode because me and my cousin going to talk about toxic masculinity and healthy masculinity. But I've learned that it's happy house, happy spouse, happy house, meaning that both people should be happy. The men's feeling matters just as equally as the woman's feelings. And if anybody tells you any differently, that it's all about the women, get that out your head. If someone teaches that it's all about the man, get that out your head. Both of y'all are important. Hi, niece. Hi, baby girl. So yeah, man. Last thing, just understand that healing is a process. It takes time. Definitely does not happen overnight. You have to continue to work on it, continue to work on yourself, and face those ugly truths, because some of it is going to be ugly, not pretty, not all the time. You have your good moments. I still got the moments where I be wanting to fight. I be getting mad, and I feel triggered, and I just want to knock this person's head off just for her smart mouth. Just one person head I want to knock off. But that is not consistent with who I am as a person. It's not consistent with my values. That's just that negativity that's in my head that I have to continuously fight and work on so that I stay true to who I really am. That's just the reality, y'all. Like, again, it's ugly sometimes. It's not always how it should be. But you can find more of these videos. We will get into different subjects. You can see more of my sexual assault experience. You can see more of my vlogs, cooking videos on our YouTube channel. It's going down here below, youtube.com/Rare Company TV. That's where you can watch The Raven Show. That's my vlogs, my cooking videos. So much more on there. I have so many videos that I have yet to post. They're just sitting in my phone taking up space, and I'm going to start posting more of them. I'm going to start vlogging more and inviting guests on here. So if you would like to be a guest on Rare Company Podcast, or you want to be on Rare Company TV and sit in front of the green screen with me, just let me know. We can make it happen. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. I hope that this lesson in my healing journey is somewhat like beneficial to you, and it helps you in some sort of way. Working on creating a safe space in the community for women, and doing more girl circles, and having more like support groups just for us to talk and get things off our chest and be able to support and help one another. So if you need anything like that from me, if you ever need any advice on any of the topics that I teach your teens, you can look up my organization's YouTube channel. You can find some of those videos, and you can also find some on my YouTube channel as well. There goes the brand, The Raven Show, Rare Company TV on YouTube. So if you ever need any of that stuff, just look it up. Follow the Rare Company page on Facebook, like it, and then you will see these videos. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, sorry about that, guys. For some reason, my connection dropped a little bit, but when I went on Facebook, I saw that I was still live, so I came back. I just wanted to continue to wrap up. As I was stating before about healing, just remember that it's a process. Just because someone else was able to heal in 6 months, maybe they had help, maybe they didn't. They did what works for them. Only you know what works for you. We are the experts in our own lives. So follow that. Stay true to who you are. Be able to stand proud in that, work through that, and get what you need for you. Again, someone else's boundaries are not yours. You don't have to follow your mama, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your best friend, your teacher. You don't have to follow anyone. You just have to do what works for you and what makes you happy, because that's going to look different for all of us. Whether you like a traditional relationship, or you want to be in a polyamorous relationship, or all this, other stuff they got going on, whether you're part of the LGBTQ plus, whatever community you want to be a part of, stay true to that. Be you. There's always going to be judgments. People are always going to talk, but at the end of the day, they're going to talk for like 5 minutes and then move on to the next thing. Is it hurting you for them to talk about you? No, honestly. So if that's the case, do what you have to do always. Don't ever worry about anyone else or focusing on that. Leave in the comments some ways that you deal with your healing. So share that with the viewers below. Let us know some things that you do for self-care that could help someone else out. And just remember to keep going, even when you want to give up, even when it gets hard, whether it's leaving a toxic relationship, whether it's starting a new relationship and you're scared, keep going, and look for support, because it's always support out here. The agency that I work for, we offer free counseling services for women and for children. We offer Strengthening Families program. If you need something like that, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. We all need a little help. We all need a little boost at times. So go for it, I just wanted to share that with you and let you know how important it is to heal and recover, so that you can have a healthy and fulfilled life. Because if you don't heal, the stuff is going to come out in other ways. It's gonna be hurtful and harmful to you in other ways that you have no idea, that you may never even think about. So in order for us to avoid that, get what you need for you, and don't let anybody make you feel bad about that. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. If you want to be a part of the podcast, go ahead and send an email to ceo@therarecompany.com and let me know that you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, and we can dive into any subject that you want to. I plan to come back later to talk about the whole Dwayne Wade and Zaya Wade situation that a lot of people are talking about right now. So feel free. If you ever want to join me, it's literally a matter of me sending you an email link and you coming on here with your headphones. That's just it. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. Again, thank y'all for tuning in. I am Raven Siobhan, and we'll be back with more at another time. See y'all later. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Rare Company podcast. I am your host, Raven Siobhan, and I started this brand in effort to influence and inspire others to be Rare Company as well. You see, I've grown to learn from my past and began planting seeds, and I want to be able to help others do the same since that is my passion. Today's culture, we like to attack and cancel what we don't understand, but what we all need to understand is that we all come from different walks of life, which grant us different experiences. So we need to take those experiences and learn to radiate acceptance, respect, and empower one another, because that is the only way that we're going to have less violence and encourage greater success. So join me and my guests as we tackle trending topics, mental health, recipes, and much more. Thanks for listening. I've been complaining so much about all the things that I have to do because that's really a part of the process, and trusting the process.